All right, guys, and the 12-team playoff, it is officially set. The very first one out of who knows how many we're going to get. I thought we would have got a lot more 14 playoffs than we did, but here we are. So we're in the 12-team playoff era, first one coming up. And I just want to know what y'all guys are thinking about this iteration of the 12-team playoff, the field we got. We're not necessarily going to pick any games. We'll have videos coming out in the future for that once we get into our Capital One Bowl Mania that we do every year on the show. But guys, what are you thinking about the lineup of games? It is important to note not a single one of these is under a touchdown spread. Not a single game that we're being given in this field. So what in the first round? So what are your opinions here, Freddie? What are you thinking? You shaking your head a little bit there.
Yeah, I think so. I love the concept of a 12-team playoff, right? Because you look at a team like Arizona State that was picked to finish dead last, while all of a sudden they win, right? You look at TCU upsetting Michigan in the first round of the playoffs and then eventually getting curb stomped by Georgia. Um, those games are in there. The upset games are there and are possible. Now, the question is where? And is this the year that something like that could happen? Right? I mean, you look at Clemson, Texas, Tennessee, Ohio State, SMU, Penn State, and I've got all the games here on the screen for you guys to kind of take a look at so you can see it. I'm not thrilled about any of these matchups, to be honest. I think Tennessee, Ohio State, obviously the 8 and 9 seed, traditionally that's going to be a really good game. Even when you look at March Madness, the 8 9 seed's always tight. It's always the most watched game. But I'm not really thrilled about any of them, to be honest. I'm going to watch them, but I only think maybe one or two might be. I mean, there's going to be blowouts here, and I hope that if that's the case, that people aren't like, oh, we got to ditch the 12-team playoff. We need to go back to 4. I think you have to give it a couple of years, right? Like you have to let it, and I know that next year it's going to 14. So that's going to cause some change too. But my biggest concern is the way the seeding works. I hate it. I hate the automatic first round buys by conference champs. I think that's stupid. If you look, I think you should just take the top 4 teams and give them a bye. I mean, that's the most that this is the only sport that does this, and it makes 0 sense. If you finish in the top 4, you should be rewarded for that, regardless if you won your conference or not. I'm looking at you, Arizona State. I'm looking at you, Boise State, right? Like, just because you won your conference doesn't mean that you should get a bye, period. Because not all conferences are made equal. Not all conference championships are made equal. I'm looking at you, ACC and Big 12. No disrespect to Arizona State. I think they're a great team and deserving to be in the playoffs, but they don't deserve a first round bye. You can't tell me they do. You can't tell me Boise State deserves a first round bye. You can't. So that's the part I have a problem with, but I am excited to see how this plays out. I mean, I do think that we're going to get some upsets. It may be in the first round. It may be in the quarterfinals. Who knows? But I am excited to watch it play out. But I think the structuring of this thing is bad, really, really bad, and needs to be changed up heading into, I guess, 2025, 2020.
Yeah, Freddie, I'm just going to continue on to what you said because you're saying how bad it is, and if you guys, people listening, if you can pull up the bracket right away, Oregon has went undefeated this season, won their conference championship, beat Ohio State, beat Penn State, and their reward, guys, is to play either Ohio State again or to play Tennessee. That doesn't sound right to me. Penn State, who is not a conference champion, who has lost to Ohio State and lost to Oregon, they they get to play SMU in the first round and then get to go on and play Boise State. How in the world does that make sense to anyone? Now, Penn State. Now, let's Penn State wins last night. We're doing this on Sunday. So, if Penn State won on Saturday, they would play Ohio State or Tennessee. So maybe in the best interest, Oregon should have lost that game. Is that what this is telling me? This is absolutely asinine. But and anyway, you should, even if you're seeding these teams in certain ways to my thing would have been like Oregon, if I'm not mistaken, is the only undefeated team in the
Yep.
nation.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Only. So maybe we're going to seed them correctly that they get a SMU Penn State matchup or Indiana Notre Dame, something of that nature, to where they should be rewarded. They should get an easier path to the semifinals of the national championship, in my opinion, because they're still going to have to beat a top four team, but one of the four best teams in the playoffs to get to the national championship, regardless. So why in the world are you probably making them play the two toughest teams in Tennessee and Ohio State? That I see in that first round. Out of the first round matchups, that's the worst you could have gotten. I think, and that's what it already is. Just this is why you do not put guys in a room that have no connection to football whatsoever and just say, hey, you guys, y'all pick. You know, bring back the analytical data, bring back the strength of record, strength of schedule, and seep that into the playoffs and just make sure, have somebody oversee it. But a committee that is choosing, like, how in the world did the committee this morning, I guess, whenever they made it, sat there and said, yep, guys, this is the one. This is perfect. How in the world did any of them sit there and say, hey, guys, Ohio State and Tennessee potentially playing Oregon? That's not fair to Oregon, because that's a crazy matchup. They should be playing SMU. They should be playing Indiana. They should be playing Clemson or whoever gets into the quarterfinals, you know? So I'm not a proponent of the 12-team playoff. I never have been. I haven't been a proponent of an expanded playoff whatsoever. I think it is just a TV marketing branding deal that allows for money. I think the cool thing about it, though, is the first round is hosted at the school's home site. So they will have like tourism money, all that money come into the program, which is really cool, really awesome. And you host a home playoff game. That's really cool. I think that's awesome. However, the overarching theme is you have a bunch of men in a room picking these games, picking these teams for branding, marketing deals, and all this stuff, TV deals, and you're not getting actual matchups that should take place. Oregon should have the easiest path no matter what. Instead, somehow Penn State got it. And it just pisses me off, because now I'm either going to have to listen to Freddie and Quinn or some other Penn State fan say, "Hey, man, Penn State's in the quarter or semifinals, ha ha ha," and there's just teams that don't deserve it. We're talking a lot about deserving, and it just puts fire to my feet, gentlemen, and I'm just boiled over by how they have made the first part of the 12-team bracket. Quinn?
Well, let me start with this. Penn State does not have the easiest path in the playoff. They don't. I have no issue with the top five conference champions being guaranteed in. The issue with this, and I actually don't think we should go to 14. I think 12 is a good number. There is one specific problem with the entire format of this bracket, and that is you guarantee the top four conference champions 1, 2, 3, and 4 seeds in the playoff. It's stupid. It's dumb. It throws the balance of the whole thing off. Because it's like you guys just said, I can go conference to conference. Let's start with the Big Ten. Oregon, best team in the sport this year. All right. And their reward is they get a bye, and then they've got to play the winner of the team ranked number 6 and the team ranked number 7. And that's a guaranteed play game. And I'll get to that in a minute, because I think that's also a flaw in this design of this system. The fact that the winner of 5-12 is guaranteed to play 4 shouldn't be how it works.
Correct.
But we'll get to that in a second. 2, Penn State. So Oregon plays the winner of 6-7. Penn State has to play 2 games, not 1. But those 2 games are against the number 10 team and the number 9 team. Both are ranked below the lowest ranked team that Oregon could potentially play. And you see the exact same thing happen with the 2 SEC teams. Texas has the easiest path in this playoff to get to the semifinal. They have to defeat the number 16 team in the country, the Clemson Tigers. Then they have to beat the number 12 team in the country, the Arizona State Sun Devils. Meanwhile, Georgia will be playing the winner of the Notre Dame is number 5 in the country, and Indiana is number 8. Both of which are ranked higher than either team that Texas will play to get to the semifinal. So in both cases, the loser of the major conference championship games have an easier path now than the team who actually won.
Yep.
So here's how you fix this, right? Let's start with seed them based on their rank. Like guarantee the top 5 in. So I'm saying Clemson stays in, even though they're not in the top 12. Bama's still bounced out. Okay. But Clemson should be the 12 seed. Arizona State should be 11. And so on and so forth. So then here's what your first round matchups would look like. Instead of getting number 5 Texas hosting number 12 Clemson, you get Notre Dame hosting Clemson. Okay. Instead of Ohio State having to play the number 7 team in the country, they would instead, as the number 6 team, host Arizona State. Tennessee, who's the number 7 team in the country, instead of having to go on the road, would actually get a home game against SMU. And then Indiana, who's also in the top 8, would not have to go on the road, but instead would get a home game against Boise State. And there is somewhere where if you really felt strongly about Boise State, maybe you could rank them one spot ahead of Indiana, but I don't know really how you do that because both of them only played one super legitimate game. But at least Boise has 2 ranked wins to Indiana's none. I don't know. Anyway, you'd get Indiana hosting Boise State. The second thing is there should not be automatic connections. The winner of 5-12 should not be guaranteed to play number 4 Penn State.
No, yeah.
Because if number 12 Clemson upsets, or in this case, number 16, but if the 12 seed Clemson upsets Penn State, it should be Oregon's reward as the highest seeded team in the playoff that they get the lowest wild card team who won a game.
Yeah. Good point.
So whoever the highest seed wild card team is that wins should be guaranteed to play number 4. Next, number 3. The next, number 2, and the lowest, number 1.
It should be like the NBA playoff or the NFL
literally
playoff.
Every playoff.
Yeah,
every other playoff works this way.
Yeah.
These first round games should not be viewed as a set bracket, but instead a play-in game to the main bracket. Then from there forward, it's just set one, and you set it based on seeds. So 1 and 4 are here, 2 and 3 are here, and after that, it is what it is. But that first round should be play-in games, and then from there, a set tournament to truly reward the number 1 spot. Because right now, straight up, we can go through this, okay? Right now, in this scenario, Oregon would be guaranteed to play the lowest seed, Penn State guaranteed to play the highest seed, who remains after wild card weekend, okay? After that, or in this scenario, the team who's got the hardest path is Oregon.
Yep.
And the next one is Georgia, then Penn State, then Texas. So the teams who should be punished the hardest right now have the easiest path. And that's just a flawed system. That's my biggest takeaway from this setup.
I also want to mention this. I don't like the bye system either. And the reason being is because you lose the home playoff game. And that generates a ton of revenue for businesses, the schools. I mean, you're talking millions and millions and millions of dollars that is lost because you don't get that home game. And let's keep it real. I've said this ever since we started doing this entire thing. College games should be played on college campuses, period. There is a reason why you build these big stadiums for your university. There's a reason why these college stadiums hold more than the NFL stadium. There's a reason for that. You need to play them at home. I'm sick and tired of passing. Now, no disrespect to the Rose Bowl. Like, you can host, the national championship game there, or heck, even the semifinals. But the first 2 rounds should be at home. And if you want to have the buys, cool. Make that second round be home games too. And now I understand you have conference tie-ins. You have to get these the BCS bowls, the New Year's Six bowls involved, right? Like, you have to. But why can't you just rotate the semifinals and national championships around, and then let the remaining 3 bowl games get really good games out of it? Like, think about, like, let's say Bama and Miami, right? Like, that would draw a lot of eyes, or Bama, Colorado, or whatever. That would draw a lot of eyes to a game that they could host that's separate from the playoffs. It just really irks my nerves that, and Lane Kiffin said it best when talking about, would you rather play in the SEC title to win to get a bye or lose to host a playoff game? That should not be a discussion, period. Like, you shouldn't, like, in your mind think, would it be best to win this game or lose this game? It should always be best to win a freaking game. There should never be a thought about losing a game and getting rewarded. That is crap. That should never be a topic of discussion. So it really upsets me, and there will be changes to this. I don't know if you watched the ranking reveal. That's all they talked about was how in the first half was how bad this system is of the buys, the automatic bids. No problem with giving conference champions automatic spots. No problem with that at all. You should be rewarded if you win a conference, but you should not be rewarded by jumping up from 15 all the way to 4 like Arizona State did. Like, that should never happen.
Yeah. We shouldn't have a system where the 12th team in the country has a first round bye in a playoff. That shouldn't be a thing. Like, now here's my thing, and I'm going to say something that will probably get our older crowd upset. I say just get rid of these guaranteed bowl tie-ins all together.
Yeah.
It's a playoff system at this point. Okay.
Yeah.
Host them on home environments all the way through the semis, and then have a neutral site game for the national title. And let these historic bowl games go host some teams that didn't make the playoffs, keep their luster, get rid of some of these bowl games no one's ever heard of. All right, get rid of them.
The Jimmy Kimmel Bowl.
Yeah, and you can keep your big Rose Bowl or whatever. You can even keep the guaranteed conference tie-in. They could take Illinois versus whoever. Like, Illinois is the highest ranked Big Ten team that's not in the playoffs. So Illinois will play in the Rose Bowl this year. And there's going to be people who get upset about that. But the truth of the matter is they're going to have to take that role anyway if you get rid of the quarterfinal tie-in. And they'll have to sit there and swap, where for 2 years they'll have meaningless games. And then once every 3 years, they'll get a big, huge semifinal game. At that point, just drop them out altogether. Just get rid of them. Give me a whole playoff where the highest seeds get home field advantage every time they play, and determine a champion that way. I think that would be the best system.
Yeah, if you're going to have a playoff system, just go ahead. You're already trying to do it. You're already paying the kids money. Go ahead and try and perform it like the NFL. Have them home game until you play in the Super Bowl. Just leave it like that. Because honestly, right, you were mentioning first 2 rounds. Honestly, the semifinals even should be, hey, Oregon just won. Semifinals should be at their place, and then national championship, Rose Bowl, Mercedes-Benz, whatever you want to call it. And if you're going this way, I think the biggest thing is just they're like, hey, we want to do playoffs, and we see how the professional leagues do them, but we want to still make it our own. And in that, you're making it almost inept. It's just stupid. It's just dumb, just the way that they're doing it. And they have got to just find something that is slightly better. And just if you're already pushing it to that point, just go ahead and make it like the NFL, make it like whoever.
I will say this. I think you could keep those guaranteed tight end bowl games if we move to this system where you're just ranked 1 through 12, seeded that way. And then the highest seeds are guaranteed to get the lowest seed winners from the play-in games. I think that would be a fair counterbalance to, okay, well, you didn't get a home playoff game and a play-in game, but you did win the Big Ten, so you're either number 1 or number 2 in the country. So you're going to get a pretty easy first draw here.
Yeah.
I think that would be a good solution too.
Yep.
So, I mean, I guess that's our full gripe here. We're right on board with literally every other pundit. This system's flawed. I could have told you that when I first started playing college football 25, and I started seeing some of the most absurd seedings I've ever seen in my life. And so here we are. It's finally smacked people in the face, and they've realized that this playoff seeding is kind of dumb and doesn't fully reward teams in the right way. So we'll see what the play out is here in 2024 with this playoff system, but it's only to come, and we'll be here to cover every bit of it at 3 Bold Takes. Make sure you use our code 3 Bold Takes at SeatGeek for $20 off your first purchase. I've been Quinn, joined by Freddie and Chase, and we're out of here.